got paid in advance by the insurance company, they don't have a lot of incentive to move it along.
Yeah.
And I don't have like rental coverage or anything.
Oh, hi Fudge, how are you?
Enough cars, I didn't need one, so.
Yep.
Or should I say hi Fudge, how are you?
But, you know, somebody else's fault, they ought to be paying. They ought to be renting me a car.
Yeah, right?
But I'm too lazy chasing them down.
Super quick. Looks like it will. There isn't? Okay. Okay. Yo. Do you have the executive session after?
That's what I was just telling her, I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless something comes up in the meeting.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Fairly nice.
Hey, you see, you like me sitting here, right?
Yeah.
What about rental inspection?
We'll do that at the workshop.
But where,
Yeah, we're gonna do Matt, or, yeah, Jason.
are we okay with that?
You guys are okay, it's your call.
Okay, no, I mean, are you still working on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're gonna revert to what he was suggesting.
Are we? Okay.
Well, I thought you liked the one that he, okay. You didn't like mine, so. I understand.
Yeah, there's a tear. I see a tear.
Don't shed a tear.
He's hurt.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Borough Council meeting for July 1st, 2025. If you could rise for the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Grace?
Here.
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 And, Mayor Curry is on the phone for this evening.
I'd like to report on executive session. Our last executive session, which was June 17th, we discussed potential litigation and real estate. Our executive session prior to this meeting, there will be an action item taken later at that time. Okay, now is the time for public comment on agenda items. Any comments? Okay, seeing none. Item number 1.
Item number 1 is the approve, meeting minutes. It's a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the June 17th, 2025 meeting as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
This is a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated June 26, 2025 for the period of June 13, 2025 through June 26, 2025, and to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make said payments.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3.
This is a motion to approve the proposed settlement agreement with Middletown Water Joint Venture and associated Sixth Amendment to the Municipal Water and Wastewater Utility System Concession and Lease Agreement dated September 30th, 2014, to resolve the litigation currently pending before the United States District Court for the Middle District of Pennsylvania at Civil Action Number 122 CV 01004 KMN DFB, and to authorize the Borough Council President to execute such documents.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Grace, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Kluskevich?
Yes.
Mr. Lister?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Reddinger?
No.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes. Motion passes.
Just as to interject for a second, although I don't have a vote, please note my objection.
At this time, our special counsel, Attorney Winfield, is going to make a statement giving you some pointers or some information on this agreement.
So, there was a mediation by the parties in an effort to try to reach a resolution to the pending litigation, which was over certain service charges that the Middletown Water joint venture wanted to include in rate adjustments for management fees of its operator for major capital improvement projects. The issue in the litigation was over the extent of those fees and what was appropriate. Through the efforts of both parties and after extensive negotiations both during the mediation and afterwards, a settlement, terms of a settlement were reached, which were then recommended for approval by the borough. The terms of those settlements, or that settlement, included reducing and capping those fees that could be charged by the operator for managing the major capital improvement projects to a specified amount of 11% of the cost of construction, based upon what they were previously attempting to assess, and based on a projection of approximately $3 million a year in major capital improvement projects over the remainder of the lease. This would amount to a savings of a minimum of $4.5 million. In addition, the borough had received for the first 10 years of the concession and lease agreement free water usage for the borough, for the fire department, for the parks, for the library. That was set to expire after the first 10 years, which was up this year. Through these negotiations, part of the settlement, the borough will receive free water and free wastewater for the remainder of the concession term. In the absence of that free water, those would be costs of the borough that ultimately would be borne by the taxpayers or residents of the borough. And then finally, the settlement eliminates the need to further continue the litigation and stops the incurring of legal fees associated with that litigation, and ends the disputes, any current disputes with Middletown Water Joint Venture.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sally, item number 4.
A motion to approve payment number 10 to Hayden Power Group in the amount of $1,306,878.86 as recommended by Esplund Engineering for work completed at the Spruce Street substation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5.
This is a motion to advertise the proposed ordinance to provide for a 2-step electric rate increase to cover costs imposed by PJM. and I have a document here to read. Rising energy costs in the PJM electric power transmission network are being passed on to all retail distributors of electricity on July 1st, 2025. This will result in an increase on your electric bill in the amount described at the bottom of this notice. Many customers are understandably concerned about higher bills. We're concerned too. That's why we're doing everything we can to keep our distribution costs as low as possible. In Pennsylvania and the broader region, energy market prices for electric generation capacity have risen sharply due to the retirement of older power plants and limited new generation resources being built as replacements. The demand for electric supply has increased and is expected to increase over the next decade. Industry experts expect this situation could worsen if new generation isn't added. Most of you have heard about the economic principle of the law of supply and demand. When the demand for a product or commodity outpaces the available supply, the prices increase. These energy market conditions are putting an unnecessary cost burden on customers. Generation capacity price increases are the reason for our proposed retail increase in our price over the next 18 months. On average, retail costs are expected to rise 9.5% this year and 10% in 2026. We want to assure you that we do not profit from this generation capacity increase. In fact, we do not generate electricity or provide generation capacity and are required to purchase electricity through a competitive, transparent bidding process on behalf of our customers. These costs are passed along to you at the price that we pay, without a profit or markup. In fact, Middletown only controls about half of your electric bill, which is the amount covering the cost of delivering power to homes and businesses over our distribution lines within the borough limits. The remaining half, which includes generation and generation capacity transmission costs, is outside of our control. Despite this, we are committed to operating efficiently and controlling the costs that we can while still ensuring reliable service for our customers. Middletown's current all-in residential rate for generation, transmission, and distribution is 11.6 cents per kilowatt hour, as compared to PP&L at approximately 14.6 cents per kilowatt hour. In addition, PPL adds additional charges that Middletown does not in the form of taxes and surcharges. Earlier this year, Middletown hired a professional rate consultant, GDS Associates, to analyze the impact of the new generation capacity costs on the rate we charge you, the customer. In order to have the least impact on the customer, GDS Associates recommended a two-step approach to increasing our charges on the residential rate class and also a two-step approach for raising the commercial and industrial rate class. For the residential rate class, first, increase the customer service charge from the current $10.91 per month to $21 per month, while maintaining the current per kilowatt rate of 11.6 cents per kilowatt hour beginning in July 2025. Then, beginning in January 1st, 2026, the Middletown residential rate would increase from 11.6 cents per kilowatt hour to 12.8 cents per kilowatt hour, a rate still below that paid by our customers in neighboring communities. Middletown Borough Council has reviewed these recommendations and will consider advertising a rate change ordinance at its July 1st, 2025 business meeting. So the motion stands to advertise the proposed ordinance to provide for a two-step electric rate increase to cover costs imposed by PJM.
If I could clarify, so the ordinance actually is just to amend the current ordinance to say that these rates can be set by resolution. So there would actually then have to be a resolution after it's amended that would actually put the specific numbers in. So in the ordinance now, some of it is by resolution, some of it has old numbers in there, and there really are kind of three kinds of charges I've actually learned since the last meeting. There's the customer charge we were talking about before, and that's on residential and commercial, and there are a couple levels of commercial. And then there's a demand charge that's only on commercial, not on residential. And even within those are some tiers, like more than so many kilowatts, there are different So there's kind of a hodgepodge of some stuff is in the ordinance, some stuff's by resolution. This would make it all by resolution, potentially do everything in one big package, and here it all is in one place. But this ordinance doesn't have any numbers in it. It
Correct.
won't set any rates. That will have to be done by a resolution.
Correct.
When we were in the last meeting, and it was suggested to do these resolutions, at the time, Ken wasn't aware that some of these things were actually locked down in the ordinance, so it couldn't be done just by, that's why we don't have resolutions today to actually implement the things we were talking about last time. We have to amend the ordinance. But this ordinance isn't really the dollar amounts of any kind, or, you know.
So are we actually advertising an ordinance, or?
Yeah, have to advertise an ordinance in order to make it resolutions, then the resolutions would actually, you'll have to debate, the numbers and things.
So should this motion change?
Well, the motion ought to be, so everybody has the ordinance in front of them, if they're,
So it should
Acceptable, it
just say
should
via
be-
resolution.
yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. What is on the table now is to advertise the draft ordinance that you have in your packets there, which would make the setting of these things all by resolution.
Oh, okay, so
Okay.
it's gonna change it from an
Yeah.
ordinance to a resolution?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Does that make sense to everybody? It probably does.
It does,
Okay.
it does, so we're gonna take it from one thing to another.
Yeah, and so it's kind of fun, when we were talking last time about kilowatt, X cents per kilowatt,
Right.
in the residential part, that part is already by some parts are by resolution, some parts are in the ordinance.
By ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, so it turned
So
out
we're
to be a
gonna
lot
take it all-
messier.
We're gonna take it all from ordinance to resolution.
Right. Right.
Okay,
To cover costs.
all right.
Well, I'm just questioning whether the motion then is appropriate.
Yeah, so the motion should not be mentioning it,
Correct.
two-step, because that's sounding like we're putting
Right.
in numbers. It ought to be
To advertise
motion
the
to advertise the proposed
ordinance.
ordinance
To take it to a resolution.
to change the setting of charges, all the types of charges, electric charges, to by resolution.
Okay, all right.
So,
So that's
do you want me to reread it?
Right, please.
Okay, this is a motion to advertise the proposed ordinance to change setting of charges by resolution
To,
For the electric system.
for the electric system.
okay,
For the electric system.
all right,
Very good, we'll
so moved,
figure it out together.
Second.
okay.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other questions?
I wanted to just make a quick statement. I know that's a lot of information for the residents. It's an explanation of the increases that we've been presented with, but we just wanted to share with you the impending sort of borough's response on your behalf of those increases. And council and staff have been aware of upcoming increases in electric rates. To address these rate increases occurring not just in Middletown, but in regions across the country, we have engaged a firm to conduct a study on possible ways to generate small amounts of our own electricity, with the possibility of a generation system or a solar system. The electricity we would produce would be cheaper than buying it as a commodity. The savings would be reflected in your electric bill. The study, which we are still waiting for, will give us information and costs on the possibilities available to us, such as constructing an electric generation system and or a solar system. But these kinds of projects are expensive. However, the costs can be covered by our electric trust fund. Our electric trust fund is an account that the borough has, and you can use it to take steps to reduce increases of electric rates for the residents. But until the study brings forth to us more about the projects and the costs, we will not be certain how much of the electric trust fund would be needed. You may have seen in recent Facebook video suggesting the idea to pay the small rate increases of the next 2 years out of the electric fund. Council is committed to a solution to buffer the residents from rising electric costs, not just for the next 2 years, but for the much larger rate increases coming the next year, and for years to follow. Again, when the council receives the study, we will present it at a public meeting, and then we will have all the information on multiple options to make the best decision for a long-term solution.
I concur with you, Councilman, or Councilor Willenbecker.
Thank you.
I think that's the best thing to do, the best way to go.
I'm sorry.
One more minute. Yes, thank you for speaking up and explaining that. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand.
Wait, I'm just kidding. I really am just kidding. You can talk now.
No, I understand that this is just paving the way to make it easier to do changes for the electric rate increases in the future. So I completely get what this step of the process is. However, I am a no vote. I do believe that we should use the trust funds to decrease the rates to our ratepayers. Now, I actually do believe that the borough should look at the ordinance, the solar ordinance that we have on books now, to make it more efficient for our citizens to do their own solar projects. You know, we sit up here talking about wanting to use their money to build solar to turn around and sell it back to them, when the way our ordinance is written now, it extremely handicaps our residents from doing their own solar projects and penalizes them for it. So I think there's a broader scope. I think we should look at some other things, but I am a no vote.
I'd like to speak up since my video was referenced. That canned political statement, I couldn't disagree with more. You have an option right now to help the residents right now, at the present, which is the sole purpose of the Electric Trust Fund. That's why it was established all those years ago, was to prevent the very situation that you're dealing with right now. If you would like to wait then for your study that you are so inclined to wait for with regard to generation, so be it. But in the meantime, you could certainly help lessen the burden on the shoulders of the collective public by using the Electric Trust Fund for its very purpose as it was designed. To say that you're going to wait until this study is done to see if other options are available, that's irresponsible. And as a steward of public money, I personally think that the fact that we aren't even having a discussion, you had a canned statement ready to go for this meeting before we even debated whether or not the Electric Trust Fund should be utilized, that should tell the public everything they need to know.
I disagree, because I can tell you for a fact that once upon a time when they did use the trust fund to offset the rates, when they took it away, the residents really felt the pinch, and it really hurt them. So
yeah, you should use the Electric Trust Fund as a buffer until you figure out what the heck you're doing with regard to future projects.
Then how do you intend to pay for anything that comes up, any project then? How will you pay for it if the
what I'm
money's
telling
gone?
you is you're willing to forego protecting the residents right now on a wish and a prayer about a possible generation scenario that we've been talking about for half a decade. You just asked me a question. I'm answering you. I'm not willing to forego protecting them when that's the very purpose of the trust fund until we figure out what those costs would be. And P.S., had we not milked the electric department for how many years by stealing that transfer of $1.6 million to fix the general fund, perhaps you'd have money stacked up in the electric fund to pay for your solar field. So mismanagement by Borough Council for years is why you're in this predicament. But I'm not willing to take our mistakes and stick it on the residents' shoulders and say, let's just wait a little bit more until we get this study, and maybe we'll be able to come up with something that'll lessen the burden for you in the future. That's not how I operate.
Well, how are you going to pay for anything that comes along if you...
I just answered you. Sally, what's the amount of interest you make off the electric trust fund in 1 year?
Around 45,000,
Around 45,000 a month, correct?
correct.
Correct. Times 12 months is how much?
I think it's a little over 400,000.
Right. And how much is it, apples to apples? What are we dealing with in terms of the money for what the proposal is right now?
But every time you spend the money, then it goes
I'm asking
down.
Sally a question.
Um,
I'm proposing using the interest from the electric trust fund to help the residents, not the balance of the fund.
so the interest would be a little bit less than what we would need for the total increases that are required to cover the
It's about
PJ.
$500,000.
Yes,
Right. And you said it's about 45,000 monthly.
yes,
490.
Okay. And that's based off what, last year's figures?
correct.
Isn't 45,000 times 12 540,000?
I don't know, I'm not calculating in my head, but I can do that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I think it's worth a discussion to see if maybe perhaps using the interest that we're making from that account to give us the time to get that study and discuss further options without depleting the account. That to me seems to be a perfect compromise to protect the residents and buy you the time to at least investigate what we've already been talking about for half a decade.
So to echo the mayor's sentiment on that, I could not agree more. To be quite frank, this body can't even decide whether they want to put a basketball court in a playground or not. The chances of this body building a solar farm on land that they don't have, I find it at probably 5% chance.
Okay, I do want to note a caveat that the 45,000, just so that for transparency purposes, is interest over the last few years. That does not mean that will continue at those interest rates.
Right.
Sure.
Rochelle.
So I'm
Even
just
if
wanting
it's
to
not
caveat.
45,000, even if it's not 45,000, what I'm saying is if you pledged the interest and it was anywhere close to that, you don't need to dip into the balance that much to buy this council the time they need to wait for that study and investigate future options. And I am going to piggyback what Ian just said. You can't even decide a basketball court in the amount of time, and you're going to tell me that we're going to protect the residents and do something we've been talking about for half a decade. I just don't see it. So they deserve to be protected with the freaking fund that was established all those years ago for this very scenario.
I just think it's easy to sit there and say we should use that money when in 1999 that fund had $18 million in it. Today it has a little over $10,000 in it because there were 7 one-time transfers. 10 million. 7 one-time transfers that provided relief, and it hasn't been replenished. So to sit there and say it's easy to use that money, it's not an easy decision. Yeah, it's easy to say that when you don't have to make that decision. It's easy to say that because you don't have to make that decision. It's easy
I'm going
to...
on the record right now during an election. You're saying if I was elected,
Of course you can say that, Jim, because you don't have a vote. It's an easy political ploy. I'm speaking, you're not. You had your time.
Put it on silent.
You had your moment, now it's mine.
Put it on silent.
Nope, it's my time, not yours.
Get ready.
Nope, it's my time, you had yours, so it's my time to speak, so you can stop. It's easy to make a statement like that when you don't have to make that decision because you can sit there and make the videos and say, oh, let's use this money. You didn't even give us an opportunity to have a discussion before you went out and made those videos. That's irresponsible. So I'm speaking. I am not done speaking. You need to stop.
I don't answer
Jenny, you
to
should-
Exactly.
Never have.
Exactly.
Recognize one
Exactly.
person,
Okay.
Exactly.
recognize one person at a time from the chair.
Angie had the floor.
Yeah, then say that, that's who's recognized now.
Angie, do you have anything
Are we
else?
voting on what we're doing with the trust tonight?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
This is just merely to make it easier in the future.
Right,
It's
you.
really of no consequence. I'm voting
At this
for it.
point, right.
Alright.
Thank you. So, can we call for the vote?
Did we get a motion and all
Yes.
that?
Yes.
There's a motion second.
And discussion's over.
Yes.
Grace, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Lister?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Rettinger?
No.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Lillibecker?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes. Motion passes.
I'd like to know what the time frame is for presentation to me for signature from the solicitor, please.
What?
So this is just a motion to advertise an
Yeah, this
ordinance.
is-
So you would have time after if the ordinance is
That's what I'm
passed.
asking.
Yeah. Yeah, so that will be out in the future. If the ordinance passes, then you'll have time to veto it.
What's the time frame?
I don't recall off the top of my head. If it might be the next meeting or 10 days. I'll have to look at the code for you, but it's not in
Okay.
play now.
Item number 6.
This is a motion to approve entering into a service agreement with Tyler Technologies for conversion of Middletown Borough's utility billing financial server-based software to upgrade to the Tyler Technologies cloud-based utility billing financial software.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 7.
This is a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-16, authorizing the lease purchase of one Ranger Super Crew 4x4 XLT pickup for the use of the Highway Superintendent from Hoffman Ford, CoStar's number 025 E23-606, to be financed through a leasing agreement with Ford Motor Credit Company, LLC, with a down payment of $4,291.81, a monthly payment of $791.81 over a 60-month period with an interest rate of 7.74%.
Just one slight change there. I think it's for the use of the highway department, even though it will be used by the superintendent, but the resolution is really for the
Okay.
department use, just to be, so it's not an entitlement by resolution to the person, but
Okay.
we do know that's who's gonna be using it, so.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8.
This is a motion to approve a transfer of $30,000 from pooled cash to the Park Sinking Fund, so that would be general fund pooled cash, to the Park Sinking Fund to cover the cost of the accessible whirl for installation at Fry Park.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now is the time of general public comment.
Heidi Ditzler, sorry, I almost said my maiden name. I'm speaking as the library director this evening. I just wanted to come, and I haven't been to a meeting for a while, and some of the good things that have been going on at the library. This past month, we have had over 2,500 visits to the library, which puts us at over 700 more this month, this year, than last year. I will credit a little bit of that to our new youth services coordinator. She is amazing. We are also circulated almost 4,000 items, which is also over 500 items more this year at this time than last year. And we're halfway through our circulation, almost matching half of our circulation from last year, and the same with our door count, because last year we had 25,000 people through the library, and for the year we are at 14,000 already. So it's been a good year so far. The other fun thing is I advertised through our Facebook page about Overdeer Park opening, and it has been that so that is a good place to go before or after our story time or any program or visit to the library. It's been viewed by the people on Facebook so far almost 6,000 times, with almost 300 positive reactions and 13 positive comments. So I'm really looking forward to the library and the public using the park, and I'm really grateful that the park that's close to the library has been upgraded and getting to see all the kids playing there. And I can see me or my staff going there to get out of the library for lunch when it's not pouring rain down on us like today. So thank you guys for everything. And then another just little thing, this year is 99 years of service for the library to the community, which means next year is 100 years of service. And so we're going to be planning some big things for next year, and just to put an earworm out for council if you want to do anything for the library for next year to recognize that. So the library's been there since 1926. Well, not there, but in the community since 1926.
Thank you.
Yes, 100 years next year. And it'll be 50 years in that building in 2028. So we've had a home in the old fire station for almost 50 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with public comment? Seeing none, there will not be an executive session, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Just before we
Oh.
adjourn, Madam President and Vice President Council, I just really want to apologize for my behavior and losing my cool. It's very inappropriate and unprofessional, and to the residents as well, I apologize that my behavior is not acceptable and not, what I want to portray as an elected official, so I do apologize.
No problem.
I will try to refrain from using that behavior in the future.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. No executive session.
Yeah, but